The novel begins with the narrator, Nick Carraway, introducing himself. Nick is a young man from the Midwest who moves to West Egg, a wealthy area on Long Island, New York, seeking to carve out a place for himself in the world of finance. He is an Ivy League graduate of Yale and comes from a well-to-do family, but he dislikes the pretense of the wealthy. His perspective is crucial to the novel, as it offers insight into the lives of those around him. As Nick settles into his modest home, he describes the area surrounding him. West Egg is portrayed as a place of newly rich individuals, contrasting sharply with the more fashionable East Egg, where the traditional elite reside. Nick lives in a small house next to a grand mansion owned by the mysterious J. Gatsby, a man whose lavish parties are the talk of the town. Gatsby is almost a ghostly figure at this point, someone Nick has yet to meet but is already intrigued by. One evening, Nick is invited to dinner at the home of his cousin, Daisy Buchanan, and her husband, Tom Buchanan. The Buchanans live in East Egg and embody the old money lifestyle, distinguished by their opulence and arrogance. During dinner, we meet Daisy, a charming yet somewhat shallow woman whose voice is described as being full of money, a symbol of her wealth and status. Tom, on the other hand, is a domineering character, a former college football star with a sense of entitlement that permeates his actions and words. As the evening progresses, it becomes clear that the Buchanans' marriage is shaky. While they present a picture of wealth and happiness, it is evident there are cracks beneath the surface. Tom receives a phone call during dinner, which hints at an affair. Daisy's reaction to this phone call reveals her frustration and hints at her deeper emotional struggles. After dinner, Nick has a moment alone with Daisy, where she shares her thoughts on her life and hints at her discontent. It's during this intimate conversation that we catch our first glimpse of the glamorous yet superficial world in which the Buchanans live. Daisy also speaks of a mysterious figure called Gatsby, but her tone is both affectionate and wary. This begins to build Gatsby's character without us ever seeing him, a theme that will persist throughout the book. In the closing moments of the chapter, Nick returns home, feeling somewhat disillusioned by the wealth and the careless lifestyle of the East Egg residents. Despite this, he gazes across the bay at Gatsby's mansion, illuminated like a beacon in the night. This sight symbolizes the American dream and serves as a portent of the complexities that lie ahead. The chapter opens with a description of the wasteland that separates West Egg from New York City. This area is filled with abandoned buildings and an atmosphere of stagnation. This contrast symbolizes the rift between the dream of wealth and the reality that accompanies it. Here, we encounter a new significant element, Myrtle Wilson, a vibrant woman from the Valley of Ashes, and her relationship with Tom. This introduction also immerses us in a world of poverty and despair that exists alongside the wealth and luxury of the main characters. One day, after work, Nick receives an invitation from Tom to head into New York City. During this trip to the city, Tom reveals himself as an emotionally detached man, consumed by his desires. They visit Tom's apartment in the city, where he meets with Myrtle, a woman with whom he is having an affair. Myrtle represents the lower class, filled with dreams for a better future, willing to do anything for status and wealth. During a dinner party at Tom's apartment, something unexpected occurs. The tension escalates, and debates over social disparities ignite conflict. Myrtle becomes increasingly frustrated when her humble origins are discussed, leading to an unpleasant incident. In the heat of the moment, Tom strikes her, showcasing his brutality and dominance. This chapter powerfully illustrates themes of class struggle, the corrupting influence of wealth, and the complexities of human relationships. Myrtle's desperate desire for a better life contrasts sharply with Tom's abusive and entitled demeanor, raising critical questions about the American dream and its attainability for those from different socioeconomic backgrounds. Chapter 3 opens with Nick Carraway reflecting on the rumors surrounding Gatsby. Despite living next door to him, Nick has seen Gatsby only once and knows very little about his enigmatic neighbor. Gatsby's extravagant parties are the talk of the town, filled with glamorous guests who often arrive uninvited. We get a vivid picture of the hedonistic lifestyle embraced by the wealthy during the Roaring '20s, showcasing a world where excess is celebrated yet loneliness lurks beneath the surface. One evening, Nick receives an invitation from Gatsby himself to attend one of his lavish soirees. This marks a crucial moment in the narrative, as it's one of the first times we actually experience Gatsby's world firsthand. The party is a dazzling spectacle: music, dancing, and an atmosphere teeming with excitement and revelry. Yet, amidst the joyful chaos, Nick feels an odd sense of separation, indicative of the emotional distance many characters feel despite being surrounded by crowds. As the night unfolds, Nick finally meets Gatsby, who doesn't match the millionaire persona he imagined. Gatsby is surprisingly reserved and somewhat shy, embodying the complexities of his character. Rather than the brash and boisterous figure of wealth, Gatsby reveals a more introspective side, raising questions about his motivations and the facade he maintains. Their conversation is intimate, hinting at Gatsby's vast desires and the hidden depths of his character. The revelry continues, but it also includes guests who express their own discontent and jealousy. This dichotomy serves to emphasize how, even in smiles and laughter, there are unspoken grievances, especially as others discuss Tom and Myrtle. The disparity between the rich and the poor becomes more pronounced, reflecting the novel's broader social critique. As the party concludes, the guests leave in a haze, some inebriated, while others remain fixated on their own lives and struggles. Nick's experience at Gatsby's party is both exhilarating and sobering, leaving him to question the true nature of wealth and the emptiness it can bring. In contrast to the glitz, we find a haunting sense of tragedy under the surface, signaling the internal chaos hiding behind the sparkling facade. The chapter opens with a detailed list of notable figures who have attended Gatsby's legendary parties, setting the stage for the extraordinary social landscape of the time. It illustrates the allure of wealth and the magnetic pull that Gatsby has over both high society and everyday people. These gatherings serve not only as a form of escapism, but also as a commentary on the superficiality of these social interactions. In a crucial turn of events, Nick is invited by Gatsby for a drive. This moment in their relationship marks a turning point. Here, we begin to see glimpses of the man behind the glittering facade. During the drive, Gatsby shares some details about his past, claiming to be the son of wealthy parents who are now deceased. He presents a narrative filled with self-made success and grandeur, yet there's something almost rehearsed about his stories. This raises questions about his authenticity and the extent to which he has constructed his identity. As they drive through the city, Gatsby takes Nick to lunch, where they meet Meyer Wolfsheim, a shadowy figure involved in organized crime. This association hints at Gatsby's potential ties to illegal activities, underlining the morally ambiguous landscape he navigates in pursuit of his dreams. Wolfsheim's presence further enriches the narrative, signaling that Gatsby's ascent might not come without a price. During the lunch, Nick is struck by the stark contrast between Gatsby's polished exterior and the disingenuous nature of the people they encounter. This scene underscores the notion that success and wealth come with sacrifices and compromises, a central theme in Fitzgerald's work. Amidst the glitz, Nick grapples with his own values and the reality of the world around him. The chapter continues to unfold as Gatsby expresses a profound longing for his lost love. Daisy Buchanan. Through a series of conversations and memories, we learn that Gatsby's extravagance and lavish lifestyle are ultimately motivated by his desire to rekindle their past romance. This revelation highlights the tragic dimension of Gatsby's character, the lengths he will go to for a dream that may never be fully attainable. When Daisy arrives at Nick's house, the atmosphere is charged with anticipation. Gatsby, initially fraught with anxiety, is almost paralyzed by his longing and fear of rejection. The moment they meet is that of tentative hope. Gatsby's nervousness starkly contrasts with the grandeur he typically exudes at his lavish parties. Their interaction is filled with awkward pauses and emotional intensity, showcasing Fitzgerald's talent for capturing the nuances of human relationships. To alleviate the tension, Nick suggests a tour of Gatsby's mansion, and this is where we witness the symbolic importance of the house itself. As they traverse the opulence of Gatsby's home, it becomes a physical representation of his dreams, wealth, status, and ultimately, his desire for Daisy. Gatsby shows off his possessions, attempting to impress Daisy, but there's an underlying emptiness that foreshadows the inevitable disillusionment. When they reach Gatsby's extravagant party, which is meant to captivate Daisy, she is confronted with the superficiality of the scene. While she is mesmerized by the luxury, her reaction reveals the hollowness of such excess. Throughout this chapter, the motif of the green light at the end of Daisy's dock is subtly revisited. This light symbolizes Gatsby's unattainable dreams and aspirations. For Gatsby, reaching out for the light represents his relentless pursuit of happiness and love, even as it remains just out of reach. The emotional depth of this chapter highlights how both Gatsby and Daisy are trapped in their own desires, symbolizing the broader theme of the American dream, glamorous yet elusive. As Gatsby's relationship with Daisy progresses, we see the tension between his idealized vision of her and the reality of who she is. Gatsby, consumed by nostalgia, believes that he can recreate their past romance and restore the innocence they shared before the war and her marriage to Tom Buchanan. However, the illusion he clings to begins to shatter as the complexities of Daisy's life and character emerge. She grapples with the demands of her social standing, the expectations placed upon her as a woman of her time, and the superficiality of her lifestyle. A pivotal moment occurs when Tom begins to take notice of Daisy and Gatsby's growing attachment. Tom's suspicion ignites a confrontation that sets the stage for the conflicts to come. He embodies the old money class that looks down upon Gatsby's newfound wealth, viewing him as an outsider despite his riches. This brewing hostility culminates in a tense dinner at the Buchanan's home, where Gatsby's discomfort among their elite circle becomes palpable. The juxtaposition of Gatsby's hopeful dreams against Tom's prying skepticism illustrates the stark divide between new money and old money in the society they inhabit. The chapter also revisits the iconic green light at the end of Daisy's dock, symbolizing Gatsby's unattainable dreams and aspirations. Though Gatsby has gained wealth and some social acceptance, the green light represents a dream that remains outside his reach. It becomes a poignant reminder that no matter his material success, Gatsby will always be chasing an ideal that may never align with reality. Gatsby's increasing determination to win Daisy back prompts a trip to New York City, which acts as a symbolic journey into the heart of their conflicted emotions. Accompanied by Tom, Daisy, Nick Carraway, and Jordan Baker, they navigate the bustling city, where tensions simmer just beneath the surface. The unraveling of Gatsby's dream becomes evident as Tom's suspicions about Gatsby's wealth and his relationship with Daisy begin to surface. During this trip, a dramatic confrontation unfolds in the Plaza Hotel. Tom openly challenges Gatsby, questioning the legitimacy of his wealth and insinuating the shady origins of his fortune. This public display reveals the class prejudices that Tom harbors and serves to highlight Gatsby's outsider status within the world of old money. Gatsby's unwavering love for Daisy is put to the test as he insists that she never loved Tom, passionately trying to reclaim the past they shared. The emotional climax occurs when Daisy is caught in the crossfire between the two men. Despite Gatsby's insistence that she should declare her love for him, Daisy's discomfort reveals the complexity of her feelings. The facade begins to crack, and she cannot simply choose between the worlds of Gatsby and Tom. The confrontation reaches its peak as Gatsby's dream begins to slip away, revealing the stark reality that the past cannot be recaptured. As they depart New York, tragedy looms on the horizon. Daisy's inner turmoil manifests itself in her decisions, paving the way for the devastating events that are about to unfold. The chapter ends with a sense of impending doom, encapsulating the themes of disillusionment and the fragility of dreams that permeate the narrative. The chapter begins on a rather somber note. Nick Carraway, the narrator, recounts the aftermath of Myrtle Wilson's tragic death. We learn that Gatsby is consumed by despair and finds himself alone in his mansion, which once resounded with the laughter of partygoers but now feels eerily silent. Gatsby is deeply affected by the loss of Myrtle, as he feels responsible for the accident that took her life. He believes that, if not for his car, she would still be alive. This sense of guilt shows how interconnected the lives of these characters are, each caught in a web of love and loss. As Nick tries to understand Gatsby's turmoil, he reflects on the moral decay surrounding them. He recalls the gritty reality of the Valley of Ashes, a stark contrast to the opulence of Gatsby's parties. This symbolizes the emptiness of the American dream, representing how wealth can lead to destruction rather than fulfillment. Nick decides to visit Gatsby, who's still hopeful about rekindling his relationship with Daisy. Gatsby shares with Nick his dream of Daisy leaving Tom Buchanan, her husband, and coming back to him. Despite the apparent futility of this hope, Gatsby's unwavering faith in his dream becomes a central theme in this chapter. Gatsby's memories of his romance with Daisy are bittersweet. He recalls the past fondly, emphasizing how his obsession with her idealized image has driven him to achieve great wealth. It's essential to realize that his dream is not just about love. It's about the longing for a time that may never return. Nick, however, grows increasingly worried about Gatsby's well-being. He knows the harsh reality of the world they live in and fears the consequences of Gatsby's reckless dreams. This tension reflects the broader themes of hope versus reality that permeate the novel. As the chapter unfolds, we see the imminent confrontation between Gatsby and Tom. Daisy is caught between the two men, symbolizing the choices women face in the constraining social hierarchy of the time. Tom represents the old money's ruthless nature, while Gatsby's new money signifies both hope and a naive disregard for the social order. Then, in a crucial moment, Tom confronts Gatsby about his relationship with Daisy, revealing Gatsby's past and questioning the legitimacy of his wealth. The tension escalates, illustrating not only a personal conflict but also the clash between two distinct worlds. Nick observes that, despite Gatsby's wealth and charisma, he will never truly belong to the world of elite society. This realization underscores the novel's critique of the American dream and the illusion of success. Gatsby's dreams gradually unravel as the chapter progresses. Chapter 8 closes on a haunting note. Nick watches as Gatsby waits for a call from Daisy that never comes. The persistent hope that everything can return to the way it was leaves Gatsby in a tragic state of longing and disappointment. This moment captures the essence of Gatsby's character, trying to reach for a dream that ultimately leads to his downfall. The chapter begins after the tragic death of J. Gatsby. Nick Carraway, our narrator, shares the aftermath of that fateful night, where Gatsby's dreams tragically collapsed. Despite the loss, Nick is determined to honor his friend's memory. Sadly, the people who once flocked to Gatsby's extravagant parties disappear when he needs them most. Nick reaches out to Gatsby's acquaintances, attempting to organize a funeral. Yet, he finds that many of them are indifferent to Gatsby's fate. Even Daisy Buchanan, the woman for whom Gatsby sacrificed so much, chooses to abandon the past and leaves with Tom, effectively erasing Gatsby from her life. This abandonment deeply disappoints Nick, who reflects on the shallow nature of the relationships in Gatsby's world. He becomes increasingly aware that the people drawn to Gatsby were only interested in his wealth and lavish lifestyle, not the man himself. Eventually, the day of Gatsby's funeral arrives. Nick is struck by the stark contrast of the event, with only a handful of attendees, himself, Gatsby's father, and a few others. This highlights Gatsby's tragic loneliness and the futility of his dreams. His lavish parties, once filled with laughter and exuberance, now feel hauntingly empty. In a poignant moment, Nick meets Gatsby's father, Henry Gatz, who shares memories of his son. This connection reveals the depth of Gatsby's past and that he had been a dreamer even as a child. Mr. Gatz's pride in his son's achievements contrasts starkly with the indifference of those who surrounded Gatsby in his adult life. After the funeral, Nick reflects on the American dream and the disillusionment that comes with it. He recognizes that Gatsby, despite his flaws and misguided ambitions, represents the relentless pursuit of dreams, even when those dreams are built on illusions. The chapter concludes with Nick contemplating the future, echoing the novel's central themes: hope, idealism, and the often harsh truth that dreams can lead to destruction. He decides to leave the East behind, returning to the Midwest. where he feels a sense of clarity and purpose. As he drives away, we're left to ponder the legacy of Gatsby, a man who believed in the promise of the American dream, even as it slipped through his fingers. The Great Gatsby, written by F. Scott Fitzgerald, is a poignant exploration of the American dream and the complexities of love, wealth, and social status during the Roaring Twenties. The novel is narrated by Nick Carraway, a young man who moves to West Egg, Long Island, and becomes entangled in the lives of the enigmatic Jay Gatsby and the glamorous but shallow Daisy Buchanan. At its core, the story follows Gatsby's unrelenting pursuit of Daisy, a woman he fell in love with before being sent to fight in World War I. Gatsby's wealth, acquired through dubious means, serves as a means to win her back and reclaim the past they once shared. However, as the narrative unfolds, it becomes evident that the glamorous facade of Gatsby's parties and wealth cannot fill the void of true human connection. The opulence of the Jazz Age is revealed to be hollow, filled with disillusionment and moral decay. The novel poignantly examines themes of ambition, love, identity, and betrayal. Gatsby embodies the tragic hero, driven by his dreams, yet ultimately crushed by the harsh realities of life. His idealism clashes with the corruption and greed surrounding him. The relationships in the novel, particularly between Gatsby, Daisy, and her husband Tom, highlight the artificiality of the social elite, who value status and materialism over genuine emotions. Ultimately, The Great Gatsby is not just a tale of love lost, but a critical commentary on the American dream itself. It illustrates how the dream, once a symbol of hope and possibility, has become corrupted by excess and moral ambiguity. Nick's final reflections reveal his disillusionment with both Gatsby and the society that idolizes wealth while disregarding the values of honesty and integrity. The novel ends on a melancholic note, with Nick returning to the Midwest, embodying the notion that the dreams of the past may remain tantalizingly out of reach, leaving behind a legacy of yearning and tragedy. Through Fitzgerald's lush prose and complex characters, The Great Gatsby remains a timeless examination of aspiration, loss, and the pursuit of happiness in a world that often sacrifices authenticity for illusion.